Governor Ganduje of Kano State advised the federal government for a law on a ban on the movement of herdsmen and cattle from the northward towards the southern region of the Nigeria. We analyze, could this be way forward? A new service chief takes charge with visit to Maiduguri, the front line of the war against insurgents. We analyze what's ahead of these new commanders and how Nigeria can win the battle under President Muhammadu Buhari's watch. Hello everyone and welcome to Politics Today on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbale in Lagos. We begin tonight with the information from the federal government. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation and the PTF Chairman, Mr. Boss Mustafa, says that government will do all it can to ensure that at least 70% of the population in Nigeria is vaccinated. The PTF Chairman says soon no one will be allowed to travel to any part of the world without vaccination. Take a listen to the SGF.
We don't need vaccines to kill us. We eat too much of what they produce. They can kill us through those things. They don't need it. There's hardly anything that is on your table that is not imported. So why do they have to waste their time and allow their people to die? Before they send vaccines out here, we will do everything to ensure that vaccines are made available to every qualified Nigerian. And our intention is that in 2021, we will vaccinate at least 40% of the population. And in 2022, vaccinate another 30% of the population.
So we're hoping and seeing how this will play out, because the issue of COVID-19 is one war that we are fighting. But another war we are fighting is the war of insecurity. And that is a war, one of our guests on this program yesterday said, it's not a war of one person or their war, it's a war of everyone. So tonight, we're going to be speaking truth to some of the issues that have been brought to bear. Tonight, we're taking a closer look at the security situation in the country. It concerns you. It's come to the southwest, to the north-central region of the country, to the northwest, to the northeast, eastern region of the country. So what is the way forward for Nigeria? But before we speak to my guest tonight on the program, because we're looking at it from the military and professional point of view, and we're looking at it also from the legal point of view. A way forward, that's what we are looking for tonight on the program. But before we get to do that, let's check out some other stories that we are following for you on our political roundup.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, will on Tuesday arraign a former governor of Abia State and Chief Whip of the Senate, Senator Orji Uzor Kalu, before the Federal High Court in Abuja. The ex-governor will be arraigned before Justice Iyan Eko on money laundering-related charges. Senator Kalu, who governed Abia State from 1999 to 2007, was earlier found guilty and handed a 12-year jail term by the Lagos Division of the court, which was eventually overturned by a 7-man panel of the Supreme Court in a judgment delivered on the 8th of May 2020. The Apex Court ordered a retrial of the defendants. The governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has banned indoor gatherings of more than 50 persons. The governor said places of worship are exempted from this rule because religious gatherings are not to exceed 50% capacity of the space. Sanwo-Olu said the state government has observed a disregard for protocols designed to curb the spread of the virus, warning that all those found culpable and in breach of the existing regulations and guidelines would be swiftly and decisively dealt with in full accordance with the provisions of the law. Former Governor of Ekiti State, Mr. Segun Oni, has thrown his hat in the ring ahead of the Ekiti State governorship election. Segun Oni, who commissions a political family structure in Ado, the Ekiti State capital, to further bring unity to the People's Democratic Party, highlights the importance of fence mending to attain political strength. He says there is no strong party or elected office holder at the state or national level who is too strong to be removed by the electorate.
Nobody should think that he's in power and is not conquerable. Politicians, as politicians, we should learn to surrender to the will of the people when the time comes and if the time comes.
Thank you so much, everyone, and let's dive straight into it. In Daura yesterday, Daura is in Katsina State, by the way. That's the homestead of President Muhammadu Buhari. Governor of Kano State, Abdullahi Ganduje, visited the president, and at that visit, he said there should be a law enacted which will place a ban on the movement of herdsmen and cattle from the north towards the southern region of Nigeria. This, he believes, will help curb the recurring clashes between farmers and herdsmen. Could that be the solution to what is being a major problem in this country? You've heard about Ruga. You've heard about so many other options in solving this problem. Let me allow you to listen to that portion, because before I introduce my guest, so that we'll put perspective into these issues, take a listen to Governor Ganduje on precisely what he said on this matter.
In fact, my advocacy is that we should abolish the transportation or the trekking of herdsmen from northern part of Nigeria to the middle belt and to the southern part of Nigeria. There should be a law that will ban, you see, otherwise we cannot control the conflict between herdsmen and the farmers. And we cannot control even the cattle rustling, which is affecting us greatly.
So you heard it by yourself. And you know the interesting thing about this program and Channels Television, we give you the opportunity to take an informed decision. As the organization, we'll give you all the facts that you need to know. And tonight, I'm being joined by a former military officer and a member of the 2014 Confab, Colonel Tole Inyam. He joins us here in the Lagos studio. And in our Abuja studio is a lawyer and rights activist, Mr. Frank Tietie. Because this program tonight has two perspectives, the law and the professional military angle to it. And so we are going to be dissecting it for you to get a sense of it. Thank you so much, Colonel Inyam, for coming tonight. And Mr. Frank Tietie. Let me get your view before we get started, because a lot of Nigerians have this feeling that it looks so much that we're getting a new start in terms of the war against insurgents and issues of national security in Nigeria, perhaps because of the new appointment of the top commanders in the Nigerian military. Let me get your reaction. These are probably some of your colleagues. Maybe at some point you've met them. You're probably senior to some of them. So how do you feel, or what is your reaction to the appointment? Is it some kind of what you wanted or what you have advocated?
It's partially what one wanted, and the officers appointed, especially the Chief of Defense Staff, seems to have a good record, both in terms of professionalism and combat tested. That's one. And then the other service, the other officers too have good records. What is unique about the thing that surprised one is that for the Chief of Air Staff, he was somebody who was commanding a unit in Oshodi. And that unit is often someone on his way out of the force. So it is remarkable that from an officer who was virtually on his way out, being appointed. So he says a lot in the new changes. But having done this, what the change that has happened is changes in the higher and high command. Now, that is the change of, you have in the military the thinking and the operation. In between, you have the Chief of Defense Staff, who serves as in between, because the highest command comes out with the strategic direction, from which the Chief of Defense Staff draws out his military strategy. And that military strategy is that dictates the objective that the units, the operations. Then the higher command now comes out with the tactical plans. In all this, if the thinking is not right, whatever is done will be faulty. And this is what we experience. So to my surprise, and that whilst changing the service chiefs, the thinking faculty that has not been tampered with. That is, the presidency, for example, the most senior officer in that office who is supposed to enable the president to think right and to make the right decision is the senior special assistant to the president on national security, which we call Nigeria NSA. So I'm surprised that the service chiefs were moved away, but the NSA is still in office. Because there's no way, if the NSA had been performing, and if that we would not have seen the result of his work. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's no clarity direction in terms of strategy in this war.
So you're looking at an overhaul?
Yes. That in terms of, I'm looking at in the overall picture, that you cannot, even if you remove the service chiefs and you have a national security advisor who is not coming up with the right strategy, because whatever the chief of defense staff meet strategy, it has to be anchored on a grand strategy that comes out from the Office of National Security Advisor.
Because a lot of people will say the NSA that you have mentioned, interestingly, this is an interesting conversation because we mentioned part of this yesterday. And a lot of people in the intelligence community will say the NSA is the brain box because it houses and directs the intelligence, which is like 60% of the work of the war.
Sure.
And so for those who think that there's a need to change the top commanders, that the intelligence part of it has not been touched.
Intelligence is key, and that means, as you have witnessed, intelligence failure is one of the worst things that has happened to operations now. And if the NSA, who is apparently the coordinator of intelligence, is failing, then why would he be left? Why others have been sacked as well? Also, the NSA, the present NSA, didn't come from the intelligence background. You know, he's not an intelligence like Azazi was or whatever. So he has a problem. In other words, we need a coordinator of intelligence services.
All right. Let me quickly get your view. Are you surprised with what Governor Ganduje said?
I must say, I'm very happy to hear it because it appears to me it was good conscience speaking. Good conscience in that what he's saying would really solve the problem we have between the invasion of the farming communities by herders. You know, I think what he has said is it will solve that particular and that's national security to do with the issue of the herders and the farmers.
I'll come to some deeper details into some of the issues that you have raised. But we have about a minute to break on the program. But let me allow Mr. Frank Tietie to come into the conversation. Let me get your view on what the president said, vis-a-vis what the governor of Kano State said, Governor Ganduje. Are you impressed with what the president's done in regard to the service chief from a legal point of view?
Well, it came late for inexplicable reasons. The president did not heed the calls for the service chiefs to be removed. But it's not enough. I cannot agree more with Colonel Yam. It's not enough that you just remove the service chiefs when the entire security architecture in this country has not only failed, but has manifestly failed, and we are paying a very high price for it. The entire country is faced with intractable insecurity, and we have fought a war on terror that has not made much progress, that has only been technically defeated. We're talking about Boko Haram, but not practically defeated. We see to a large extent whether our president has been misled by a national security advisor who has not properly coordinated intelligence intelligence enough in a manner that will drive a war that is supposed to be won based on intelligence. So I think that it wasn't enough to remove the service chiefs. They've tried. The president commended them. But you see, there was something fundamentally wrong with the security architecture, and it ought to have started from the presidency. The president is not a soldier. The president relies heavily on a particular special advisor, the Office of the National Security Advisor, to supply proper pieces of advice to the commander-in-chief for proper directions to be given to the military. But we haven't had that. We've seen a situation where our president has even been faced with threat and somehow very in dangerous conditions. We've seen our president visit Daura, and then in his home state, we see Kankara boys in the hundreds being kidnapped. Total failure of intelligence. And then you appoint new security chiefs, and you want us to be excited when we are talking about when the old guard, when the old structure is still in place. And then, there is no hope.
All right. Mr. Frank, we'll take a break, but I want you to give us a legal point of view to what Governor Ganduje is saying, that there should be a law about the movement of herders and cattle from one part of the country to another. How realistic is this, and will this solve the problem that we are facing as a country? We take a break, and when we come back, more analysis into this, because the two professionals here will give you those insights. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, everyone. Everyone, and welcome back to the conversation right here with Colonel Tony Hiam, a member of the 2014 Confab and retired military officer. And from our Abuja studio is Mr. Frank Tietie, a lawyer and rights activist. We're looking at the issues of national security. The president has removed and replaced the service chiefs. But they are saying on the program tonight that the president may have done just half of the job. Is about half to be done. So Governor Ganduje has also added to the conversation tonight on the way from his own perspective to go in tackling the clashes between herders and farmers. Let's get back to the conversation. And let me get Mr. Frank Tietie's legal point of view. Mr. Tietie, legally speaking, Governor Ganduje, interestingly, from the northern region of the country, because every time this kind of conversations comes up, where politics is drawn into it, ethnic issues are drawn into it, there are a lot of sentiments that come to play. People get emotional about this matter. But coming from Governor Ganduje, and is drawn the issue of the Constitution and law into it, but from a legal point of view, give us an understanding of the plausibility of what Governor Ganduje has said.
You know, Governor Ganduje has long seen the light. When the issue of Ruga came up, Governor Ganduje made a clarion call that he welcomes all headers to Kano State and that he was ready to provide Ruga for them. Again, in this circumstance, he has considered thinking out of the box, forgetting that there had actually been open grazing prohibition laws that have been enacted in Benue State and Ekiti State to address this very issue. And then when you also look at another federal law, we're talking about the Nigerian Highway Act and the Federal Road Safety Corps Act, which have also prohibited the movement of livestock along adjacent to federal roads across the country, and then also banning all forms of grazing on adjacent lands on federal roads across the country. So that is a legal situation. Now, we've also had, for matters of necessity before now, grazing reserves. But what Governor Ganduje is proposing is, it may be, to my mind, simplistic, because there's a lot more about, movement of livestock across Nigeria. If that is the only thing that needs to be abolished, the Federal Road Safety Corps Act and the Nigerian Highway Act have made copious provisions in, abolishing such forms of movement, except when such livestock are transported in closed vehicles like trailers, as we often see. So, but there is a lot more to that. And you see, there is a social aspect of that kind of law, which must consider that, the mentality of the people is that there's a morbid fear of something that may not be very sane, and that is the fear of domination. That is, I mean, there is really supposed to be nothing wrong when livestock is moved according to law, in closed containers, in closed trailers, but the fear of domination by persons who are considered to be non-indigenous, non-natives, I think that is something a law must seek. It's a mischief that the law must seek to resolve. Until that is done, we will keep proliferating laws, and then not to forget that despite the open grazing prohibition laws we've seen in Ekiti and Benue State, those have not stemmed the tide of farmer and herders crisis. So a lot more needs to be done. I must commend Governor Ganduje for attempting to think from the box, but this is not the first time he has expressed such progressive ideas with regards to tinkering with the law. I think that something can indeed be done, but the social psychological aspect of the law, of the problem, must be embedded in such a law. It's a possibility, but he needs not. He needs not wait for the federal government to enact such a law. After all, the federal government has done so with the FRSC Act, but let us see a law coming from Kano State. Kano State has been progressive, has been all welcoming to herders. Let us see some, some incentives, incentivizing situations and provisions coming from a legal instrument from Kano State.
Let me bring in Cornelia. Give us some intelligence into this matter now. Because Mr. Frank Tietie said something, and you also mentioned it earlier, that some of the elements that we're talking about, I've spoken to a few people, some of who said there are some kind of infiltration. And some, when people now tag a particular ethnic group in the country with some of these vices, it might be painful to those who are from that ethnic stock. But what kind of intelligence do we have on our hands as regarding those who are carrying out these heinous acts of maiming and killing our young, innocent, elderly Nigerians?
Poor intelligence. Poor indeed. And to start with, is the issue of calling ethnic, the whole thing is beyond ethnic. Governor Ganduje is a Fulani man. And you see, we need to be driven by good conscience. And I respect people who speak just like Senator Sani. And in fact, the point is, we've had this problem over time of innocent people being killed, and the herders, if I may use the word, the Fulanis we've known for years, are very peaceful, lovely people. Before I came to the studio, I just took a walk in Isheri here. And when I was in the Isheri there, the cow was coming to my cow. There are many cows here. And the young 15-year-old boy came and stopped the cow. And so I said, oh, why? He said, no, the cow shouldn't have gone there. And the boy spoke good English. I asked him, where? He said he learned it in Abeokuta. That he speaks, that he even learned Hausa here. So the problem we have is that the infiltration from those who are traumatized climatically, that is Mali, Burkina Faso, coming in, they are the ones who are creating problems for our Fulanis in the country. And I'm happy that this governor is speaking out, just like a number of Fulani men, like, is it Habib Baba Ahmed? He's been...
Hakim Baba Ahmed.
Yes, he's been speaking rightly. Even Dr. Junaidu Mohammed is also been speaking. We need to move. And that is why, for some of us, it's a time that the president should convey a critical stakeholder meetings. Very few people to really deal with. We need to heal, because if we don't do that, I fear there are going to be killings on both sides of the divide of innocent people. And to stop that, we need to take advantage of the message coming from Kanu, because ironically, the three people we mentioned are from Kanu, Junaid and even Baba Ahmed. No, Baba Ahmed is from Kaduna.
Yes, sir.
But now, we need to take advantage from them and engage them have a discussion.
Or you say that the president needs to speak on this?
That the president needs to we need a meeting, a dialogue, a national dialogue
on the way forward, like a plan.
On the way forward, because we are right now on the edges of the cliff.
All right. So let's close the conversation now because we're out of time.
Sure.
You mentioned some very critical points. I'd like you to summarize in 30 seconds.
Sure.
On the issue of intelligence, that is a major problem. If you were the president, what would you do?
I would immediately do what the Americans did after 9/11. When the intelligence were competing themselves, as is going on now, he appointed, by law, the Congress came up with an act to establish the Office of Director of National Intelligence, who was recently appointed by Biden, a lady. That is what we need. A coordinator of national intelligence who would be a professional, who would control all the operations of the intelligence. At the moment, they are working at court purposes.
So there's a failure of the intelligence architecture in Nigeria.
There is a failure because the supposedly chairman of the coordinator in the NSS office is not structured. To start with, he is not an intelligence personnel. All
right. Mr. Tete, your final shot on the program. What is the way forward? You heard intelligence is a major problem.
If you want these new service chiefs to succeed, then you need to rethink the intelligence architecture in our country, the entire security architecture in our country. And it starts with the Office of the National Security Advisor that has failed. And you see, it has even failed to recognize that much of the insecurity we have in our country associated with banditry are not directly related to farmer headers crisis. It has failed to understand that he's supposed to coordinate global and domestic intelligence for the purpose of advising the president and then also giving what Colonel Nyam has referred to as strategic thinking coming from the top. He has failed. Until we will expect very quickly that if the president is sincere and we Nigerians are sincere, then we expect something indeed new. You don't bring new wine and pour them into old wine skins. You don't bring in these new service chiefs and then we expect an old strategist to still be on ground who has no indices of success, who has no understanding of what's actually going on, practically misleading our president, then we think that we have a very big problem. And I would expect that the president, in good faith, just as he treated the old service chiefs who served patriotically, he should also advise he removed the National Security Advisor because he has not coordinated intelligence properly. The intelligence is the key in winning the war against terror. Intelligence is the key in ensuring that Nigerians are safe from bandits across the country and then preventing farmers and headers crisis. So the problem lies with failure of intelligence, poor coordination on the part of the Office of the National Security Advisor.
I must sincerely thank you, Mr. Frank Tete, a lawyer and rights activist, and of course, Colonel Tony Nyam. Always a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. But that's our show for today. Many thanks, everyone, for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye for now.